So yeah, Russia just got an 8.8. So 8.8s are really, really rare as an earthquake. I'll just say that I'm not an earthquake professional and I don't really even follow them. I've only been following earthquakes for the last week or two because of a few videos I did about these prophecies, one from a Japanese woman and one from a Thai woman who claimed that by August this year you're going to see a massive quake. The Mor Plai one, she didn't say the 31st of July, but she said before August, so I'm going to assume that that's what she was talking about. Yeah, so 8.8 for Russia, that's massive. So tsunami warnings are now out all over the place. I'll pull this up on screen for the moment so you can see what I'm talking about. And over here, whoa. All right, this one here is the 8.8. So you see down the bottom of the screen there on the left, 8.8, 112 k's deep off Russia. Now, it was kind of, you know, an 8.8 is really, really rare. So I was just looking at Wikipedia and they're saying once a year. So once a year, you're going to see something over an 8. And we just got an 8.8. Now, why this is significant isn't that I'm following the earthquake itself that just happened in Russia. It's that the actual quake itself, I'll just send this screen over, see what's going on. So the actual earthquake itself is important because about a week ago I made a I got a picture of what I thought or where I thought the quake that's predicted by the Thai Mor Plai was going to happen. So I'll pull that up just so I can show you. So you see on screen now we've got right up the top there where the white kind of seismic activity is happening. So that's where the 8.8 just went off. This photo or this graphic was made a week ago. All right, so this isn't something I just knocked out today. This is about a week old. And this was just like my kind of prediction as to where it might go off if there was going to be a massive undersea earthquake, which is what Mor Plai predicted, that there'd be 3 volcanoes would erupt and it will set off a massive chain reaction. Now, in the last 2 weeks of roughly following what was going on, there's been heaps of activity in Alaska. So that's the white seismic stuff right up the top here. And in the middle, you've got the Russia. That's where the 8.8 just went off. Again, this is a week-old predictive photo. So you can see that the Russia one was going to be the key. So Alaska was building up. So again, the top right-hand white kind of seismic activity up there. So that's Alaska. And then the real action was going to happen in Russia. Again, this is a week old, so, you know, it's kind of sort of coming true. My version and hers all in one. And you can see the Russia is going to be very, very active. So the middle seismic red bars there, the red circles, that's Russia. And then for this to tie into both the Japanese woman and the Thai woman's predictions that before August there'll be a massive earthquake and undersea eruptions and stuff, the guess for me is down where you see the white ones near Japan, which says the big event possible location. So that's off the coast, running on one of the tectonic plates. So you can sort of see the red line that's coming down and going past Japan. So Japan's the bottom left there, all those little islands. And the seismic plate would obviously kind of be where it's going to happen. And that seems to be exactly what's been panning out in the last week. Another little earthquake just pumped off in, I'll just turn this one off, getting more and more around Russia. So you can see this, you see this one here. See, this site that I'm using, this program in the back, said that it was only 7.8, but all the media are reporting that the one in Russia that just happened about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half now, was 8.8. So this software is underplaying it. All the media's over spurking it up. So I'm not sure who's right. I'm looking at 2 different softwares, one saying 8.8, one's saying 7.8. Now, to give you an idea of the strength of a 7.8, not an 8.8, 7.8 is the same power as the atomic bomb that hit Hiroshima, right? Same energy is stored in that kind of an earthquake. And again, 7.8 is pretty rare. That's doesn't happen all the time. But at 8.8 is unbelievable. Again, only supposed to happen like once a year. So a very rare event. I was just reading up Wiki, trying to work out myself, what's the difference between a 7.8 and an 8.8? Well, it's a lot. So an 8.8 is obviously going to be about 2 Hiroshima bombs going off. So that's pretty significant. We're getting lots of 5.2s, 5.4s. You can see it zooming in. So this is where the big one went off in Russia. Again, that was that one there. So they're all out to sea at the moment. And Alaska last week was really pumping. Now Russia's pumping. And if you look at this image, I'll bring that image up again. You can see Alaska top right. In the middle is Russia, where it's all happening now. And then Japan. So it seems to be moving. So this fault, or the pressure that's causing all these earthquakes and volcanoes to get excited, seems to be moving down. And again, this diagram is more than a week old as a prediction of roughly where I reckon this thing's going to happen, if it happens near Japan. You might not need Japan to do anything at the moment. If Russia starts pumping out anything bigger, or something that hits land, or something that's a bit more shallow, because I think the 8.8 is like 100 and something k's deep. So that's pretty deep. If it was 10 k's deep, that'd probably cause, more shock, more chance of tsunami. Now, the media's at the moment reporting tsunami, possible tsunamis, blah, 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 coming from the 8.8 of Russia, which wouldn't be surprising. But I'm more focused on Japan as much as worrying about the 8.8 that I just missed out on because I didn't have my gear running yet. So I think if we go down to Japan, I'll just take you down to Japan. I'll get rid of this prediction map. So if we go, I'll just get up a hooba-dooba. So you can see here, so that's all the Russian activity. And then it's coming down, so that's the big one there. And then you can sort of see Japan's had one within the last hour, only 4.7. And about the middle of the screen there, just below Japan, would be where I'll predict that something's going to happen. So we've got Alaska still pumping up here. Alaska's just going crazy still, but calming down. They're getting smaller and smaller. And when last week Alaska was where all the action was at, it was just going off. It was just every hour, something was going off. Now, I've got these set so they disappear after a certain amount of time. So like 12 hours, you'll see nothing on screen. And after about an hour, they go from orange to red. So all these ones here, they're all about 5.4s, that kind of thing, 5.2s. They're all within the last hour. And then we've just had one go off at 4.7 on Japan. And you can see it creep. It's just doing the creep, like that image that I made up to predict roughly if this thing pumps off in Japan, where it's going to be. So I'm not sure if tsunamis or anything's going to, how far they'll go. I'll just quickly see what's going on out there. Yeah, 8.8. It's weird that the software that I've got on screen called it a 7.8 when, 4 or 5 days ago, I did a live and it told me that one went off at like 7.4 when it was only 6.8. So I don't know how all these different data stations and monitoring stations for earthquakes get different data, but they seem to. So maybe on a quiet news day, it goes from a 7.8 to an 8.8. I don't know. So they're talking possible 4-metre tsunami waves coming out of the one from Russia. When the girl in Thailand, Mor Plai, I should pull her up on screen in a minute just to give you a bit of context as to what I'm talking about, because her prophecy is that by tomorrow we're going to see a massive event, not in Russia, more around Japan to Philippines. So I find it interesting that it's all popping off at the moment anyway. And again, 8.8 in Russia, that's once in 100 years, or no, once in a year, and over 8.8 is once in 100 years. So the rarity of something 8.8 is massive. But I'm more interested in how it's funneling down with this diagram. So Alaska up the top, Russia in the middle, which was going to be more activity because it's kind of in between them, and then the seismic activity is going to go down to the bottom left, off the coast of Japan. So probably not hit Japan, but there's a lot of active volcanoes in that area. They're underwater. Now, underwater volcanoes are a bit tricky because we don't have as many monitoring stations in the ocean as we do on land. So when something takes off and it happens on land, you know about it instantly. But if something happens under the water, especially if like a couple of volcanoes go off all at the same time, then you're not going to get reports until it's almost too late. So there's just going to be waves coming at you, and then they've got buoys out at sea that monitor wave size. But by the time the earthquake, the volcano, whatever, has made sizable waves, you've only got probably 10 minutes to start bailing. So, which for a lot of people would be too late. So I think looking at my Ploy's prophecy that by tomorrow, the 31st, which could be the next day almost because of American time, but she was in Thailand, and the other prophet is in Japan. So they're actually more like Australian time, which is where I am. So they're about an hour in front, an hour behind. When America, it's probably like, I don't know, 4 o'clock to me in the past yesterday afternoon. So not everyone runs on American time or cares. So her prediction of it'll happen before August, so tomorrow is going to be the 31st. That'd make sense that we're seeing a bit of action today. So a little bit more action than I actually thought, because 8.8 is pretty serious, and we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to keep a rough eye on what's going on and try to update these things that aren't updating. So yeah, so everything's calmed down a little bit. We've only got 2.7s, 1.6s going at the moment. Of course, not everything happens at once. Even Australia's getting rocked at the moment. So we're generally flat, boring desert, and we don't really get earthquakes, but we had a 4.3 or something this morning. So there's definitely a lot of activity going on. And it seems to be kind of panning out like the prophecy. Now, for anyone who doesn't know the prophecies I'm talking about, the Mor Plai one, I will chuck out, I'll just throw it up. So I'll shut up for a minute and I'll just put it on to give you an idea of what I'm actually talking about and why her prophecy is basically going to be in the next 24 hours, if it is. But I'm putting a little bit more weight on that now, seeing that, we're getting 8.8 earthquakes. That's amazing. Again, 7.8 is the same strength as Hiroshima that hit Japan, the atomic bomb. So that's only 7.8, so 8.8 serious. If 8.8 hit land, there wouldn't be anything left there. That's some serious action. Well, I'm going to just throw Mor Plai's prophecy up so you can see that we've got 24 hours to see whether this plays out or not. Now, I'm no doom merchant. I just made some videos on interesting stuff. I actually did a month of prophecies, just some videos. And that was about a month ago. So this just all ties into some of the videos that I'd made. So yeah, anyway, I'll shut up for a minute and play this one. And, give me your feedback. If you think she's on it or she's just dreaming, let me know. So I'll just chuck this one up. Maybe I'll make it little screen just on me. That'll do. All right. Head to 2025, her warnings grow even more urgent. Imagine this: rising seismic activity along the Java Trench and Philippine Sea Plate triggers a chain reaction of undersea volcanoes between Japan and Indonesia, sending tsunamis racing toward Thailand's coast. Months before disaster struck, she described the earth shaking near golden temples, a vision that many dismissed as cryptic. Yet in March 2025, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit Myanmar, with tremors reaching northern Thailand.
Thailand. And in 2020, Mor Plai whispered of a looming pandemic. In 2024, she pinpointed Myanmar's earthquake. Now, as she looks ahead to 2025, her warnings grow even more urgent. Imagine this: rising seismic activity along the Java Trench and Philippine Sea Plate triggers a chain reaction of undersea volcanoes between Japan and Indonesia, sending tsunamis racing toward Thailand's coast, and there's barely any warning time to escape. Researchers at the University of Tokyo have used AI to model these linked underwater eruptions and found they could displace trillions of gallons of water. So why aren't more people talking about it? Today we'll explore Mor Plai's prophecies, the science behind them, and the countdown to July 31st, 2025, the date she says could change everything. But first, let's look at what makes her predictions so hard to ignore. Mor Plai's reputation as an oracle rests on a series of predictions that have captured national attention. In early 2024, months before disaster struck, she described the earth shaking near golden temples, a vision that many dismissed as cryptic. Yet in March 2025, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit Myanmar, with tremors reaching northern Thailand and even swaying buildings in Bangkok. She had not only predicted the timing, but also pinpointed the Sagaing region as the epicenter. Satellite data later confirmed the quake originated just miles from her forecasted location. This wasn't the first time her warnings aligned with major events. In 2014, she spoke of a great bird vanishing over the southern seas, eerily preceding the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. That same year, her vision of a vessel sinking beneath cold waters carrying hundreds was linked by followers to the tragic South Korean ferry disaster. These moments, widely discussed in Thai media, helped solidify her status as more than just a local mystic. Skeptics are quick to point out that not every prophecy comes true. Her prediction that Peter Limjaro and Rat would win the 2023 Thai general election, for example, was proven wrong when Sretha Thavisin took the seat. There were also misses, like her forecast for Malaysia's former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad. Critics argue that people remember the hits and overlook the misses, but Mor Plai's supporters maintain a detailed public archive of her predictions, openly tracking which come to pass and which do not. Despite the debate, her influence is hard to ignore. After her warning about a chemical leak in Rayong province last year, local fishermen moved their boats upstream. Days later, a tanker spilled thousands of gallons of solvent exactly where they'd been docked. Incidents like these have transformed her social media presence into a real-time alert system, with hundreds of thousands across Southeast Asia tuning in for updates. As her latest visions grow more urgent and specific, the public's curiosity only intensifies. But to understand why her warnings about 2025 are causing such anxiety, it helps to look at the region she's most concerned about, a vast, volatile zone shaped by forces deep beneath the ocean floor. Few places on Earth match the intensity of the Pacific Ring of Fire, a 40,000-kilometre arc that circles the Pacific Ocean and stands as the world's most active seismic and volcanic zone. This region is the meeting point for several major tectonic plates, including the Pacific, Philippine, and Eurasian plates. Their constant collision and grinding create immense pressure, leading to frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. About 90% of the world's earthquakes and 75% of its active volcanoes are concentrated here. Much of this activity unfolds out of sight, deep beneath the ocean. Nearly all undersea eruptions escape detection. Japan, for example, has 111 active volcanoes on land, but only 10 have been mapped underwater, leaving a vast blind spot that directly echoes Mor Plai's warnings. In Indonesia, only 2 underwater volcanoes have been properly charted, despite the country's 130 known volcanoes. The seafloor between Japan and Indonesia is a maze of trenches and volcanic ridges, including the Mariana and Philippine trenches. These remote depths are so poorly understood that we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about these critical underwater regions, The destructive power of undersea eruptions became clear in 2022 when the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcano erupted. That single event sent a tsunami across the Pacific and coated Tonga in ash, knocking out communications for days. But what if multiple volcanoes erupted in a chain reaction? Simulations from the University of Tokyo show how one eruption can destabilize neighboring volcanoes, triggering a cascade. In these scenarios, trillions of gallons of water are displaced in moments, producing tsunamis that race across the sea at 700 to 800 kilometers per hour and rise up to 30 meters as they reach shorelines. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami is a stark reminder of what's possible. A single earthquake shifted the sea floor, unleashing waves that killed 280,000 people and reached heights of 30 meters. Yet that disaster was caused by a single rupture. Mor Plai's prophecy describes something even more complex, a series of eruptions and quakes along the Java Trench and Philippine Sea Plate, creating a domino effect that could outpace anything seen before. Geological models support this idea, showing that pressure released at one undersea volcano can destabilize others nearby. Early warning remains the greatest challenge. Surface volcanoes often provide clues, gas emissions or swelling ground, but underwater, those signals rarely reach us in time. By the moment sensors pick up signs of an eruption, tsunamis may already be on their way to populated coasts. Japan's barriers are designed for earthquake-triggered waves, not volcanic ones. Indonesia's warning system is stretched thin, with just 170 sensors covering 54,000 kilometers of coastline. Mor Plai's focus on Japan and Indonesia is grounded in both history and science. These countries sit at the intersection of three major plates, and records show that linked disasters have happened before, like the 1792 Mount Unzen collapse in Japan and the 1883 Krakatoa eruption in Indonesia. Today, with coastal populations far larger, the stakes are even higher. This backdrop sets the stage for a new kind of anxiety, one that grows louder as a specific date approaches and as another prophetic voice joins the conversation. As July 2025 draws closer, attention sharpens on a date that carries both scientific concern and prophetic weight. Ryo Tatsuki, a reclusive manga artist from Japan, stunned readers when his 1990s manga, I Saw the Future, appeared to predict the 2011 Tohoku earthquake with uncanny precision. When that disaster struck, many who had read his work were unsettled by how closely reality matched his vision. Now, his manga points to a new threat, a massive undersea earthquake along the Nankai Trough at 5 a.m. in July 2025. He describes a magma explosion beneath the ocean, triggering a tsunami hundreds of meters high, one powerful enough to submerge a quarter of Japan. The specificity of his prediction, including the location and time, has fueled rising anxiety in Japan, especially among those who remember the accuracy of his earlier warning. Mor Plai's warnings echo and expand on Tatsuki's vision. While she agrees that Japan faces heightened risk in July, her own visions introduce a new element, a chain reaction of submarine volcanic eruptions stretching from the waters off Japan down toward Indonesia. She describes one eruption triggering others along the Java Trench, a scenario that would multiply the destructive force beyond a single earthquake. This convergence of prophecies, both centering on the volatile meeting point of three tectonic plates, amplifies the sense of urgency. Instead of a single disaster, the possibility emerges of multiple overlapping catastrophes, each compounding the other's impact. The Nankai Trough is no stranger to seismic upheaval. This subduction zone has produced magnitude 8 or higher earthquakes every 100 to 150 years, with the last major event in 1946. Japanese authorities estimate a 70% chance of another Nankai quake by 2050, making Tatsuki's timeline plausible. Meanwhile, Mor Plai's focus on underwater eruptions highlights a growing gap in disaster preparedness. Most early warning systems are designed to detect earthquakes, not the sudden pressure changes of submarine volcanic activity. The 2022 Hunga Tonga eruption demonstrated how quickly communications and warning networks can be overwhelmed when an undersea volcano erupts, leaving little time for evacuation. Both prophets point to July 31st, 2025, as a day when these threats could converge, but neither claims that catastrophe is inevitable. Their warnings have sparked debate and anxiety, but also a crucial question. If forewarned, can people change the outcome? Preparedness changes the story before disaster strikes. This belief is at the heart of Mor Plai's message. She often reminds her followers that the future can be shaped, not simply endured. After her March 2025 forecast about the Myanmar earthquake, she urged people in at-risk areas to reinforce buildings and review evacuation plans. When the quake arrived, buildings in Bangkok swayed but suffered limited damage, an outcome that matched her warnings and highlighted the value of readiness. Japan's approach to disaster preparedness stands as a powerful example. The country's earthquake early warning system can provide 10 to 60 seconds of advance notice, enough time to shut off gas lines, halt trains, and take shelter. During the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, these alerts are credited with saving an estimated 20,000 lives. Stringent building codes in cities like Tokyo require structures to withstand powerful shocks. Public drills and education campaigns are woven into daily life, ensuring that even children know how to respond when alarms sound. This culture of preparedness is the product of hard lessons learned from past tragedies, such as the 1995 Kobe earthquake, where outdated construction led to thousands of deaths. Thailand faces a different set of challenges shaped by its geography and history. After the devastation of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the country installed 62 warning towers along the Andaman coast. These towers sound alarms if offshore sensors detect unusual wave patterns. But Mor Plai's warnings about volcanic tsunamis raise new concerns. These waves can form closer to shore, leaving as little as 5 to 10 minutes to reach safety. In response, some fishing communities have begun practicing monthly evacuations and identifying high ground, adapting simple strategies that could make the difference when seconds count. The memory of 2004 lingers, a reminder that early warning and practiced escape routes can save lives. Preparedness goes beyond physical measures. Mor Plai encourages mental and emotional readiness, urging people to stay informed, remain vigilant, and support one another. She emphasizes that resilience is built not just on technology, but on mindset and community. Japan's regular disaster drills, emergency kits in supermarkets, and public awareness campaigns all serve as daily reminders to be proactive, not passive. The lessons of past disasters are clear. Having systems in place, knowing where to go, and practicing what to do can turn fear into action. Mor Plai's July 2025 warnings continue this tradition, urging families to prepare simple supplies and evacuation plans. Her message is not about resignation, but about empowerment, reminding us that with awareness and preparation, we can soften the blow of whatever comes next. Rather than predicting doom, Mor Plai's visions serve as a warning flag, an invitation to shape a safer tomorrow. As she explained in her interview, when people change behaviour, fate adjusts itself. The countdown to July 31st, 2025 isn't just about watching the calendar, it's about taking practical steps that matter. Japan's earthquake drills and Thailand's tsunami towers show that preparation isn't abstract, it saves lives. Coastal towns, mapping evacuation routes, families reviewing emergency kits, and communities staying alert all make a difference. Her prophecy is a call to action, not fear. Check your local tsunami routes and emergency kits today. It could make all the difference before July 31st, 2025.
Yeah, so that was one of the videos that I'd done about a month ago now about Mor Plai, obviously, and her prediction that by the end of July, we're going to get a massive tsunami, underground earthquakes and the like. So today, again, topping off that Russia just had an 8.8 on the Richter scale earthquake off their coast, which has now got tsunami warnings still current. It's funnily enough, it looks like her predictions might be closer to the truth than I would have thought, because I was making videos like just, out of interest about prophecies and prophets, and someone had told me about Mor Plai and another Japanese woman, and I was just like, went and had a quick bit of a research on them, and it was pretty interesting, so I thought I'll just compile a video about this prophecy of disaster and earthquake and whatever. And they both were saying July. Whether one just copied the other, I don't know. I think Tsunami is the Japanese woman. And a lot of people were saying that her prediction was the 5th of July, but when I went and researched, I couldn't find anything on the 5th. I found some very loose information about her prophecy to do with tsunamis in Japan, and it wasn't the 5th. So they both basically said that before August, that we'll see some sort of chaos blooming. Now, having an 8.8 go off in Russia, absolutely, it's kind of making it look like a bit more legit than I would have thought. I don't put much weight on prophets. I think, things can change and we can change things and as well. And I think, even maybe collective consciousness can stop drama before it happens. But, I don't know, looking at the world at the moment, maybe we deserve to get a bit of a wipeout. I think might wake people up a little bit to what's important. But so looking at a quake, so I'll pull up something here. So this is a Richter scale thing. I'll just get control of it so I can actually manipulate it. All right, go away. All right. I just need to get down the page a little bit. So you can see here the rarity of an 8.8. So the second bottom from, I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. No, won't let me do that. Doesn't matter. So an 8.8 is down on the great scale. So higher than 8 is only supposed to happen once a year. And it basically says that major damage to buildings, moderate damage to even stuff that was built to withstand earthquakes. So pretty much an 8.8, if that was on land, that would have made a big difference. But obviously still got a bit of a possibility of tsunami coming in and that kind of thing. And over 8.9 is just ridiculous. That's once in a century. Would obviously do massive damage. So what I found interesting when looking through all these different things, let's see if I can pull up another one. So this is just coming in from the news. The 8.8 tsunami warnings coming in, that kind of thing. Waves up to 4 metres possible. I haven't seen them cancel the alert yet, but I'd expect that they'd be rolling around about now. It looked like the earthquake that just happened off Russia about an hour and a half ago was about 100 k's off the coast. So it's going to stir up something, but most of the time tsunami warnings just fail. They don't do anything. They just kind of peter out, because it'd take obviously a particular kind of seismic activity to actually set off the waves. You'd need massive movement, like plates moving like this kind of thing. Obviously that's going to make a wave. So it might have just been so deep that it's not going to do that. But there was another really interesting thing I was just reading on Wikipedia, which I don't like overdoing Wikipedia, but it was saying that the 7.8 earthquake is the equivalent of the atomic bomb they dropped on Hiroshima. So that's 7.8, not 8.8. And when it goes like up at that higher end, to go up a whole point is like doubling the power. So pretty serious power going on with these kind of things. So I'm just going to get back to checking out what's going on. Again, I don't follow earthquakes. I don't know much about them as much as anyone else kind of would. Not my job, not my drama. But so I was mainly following just due to the prophets that I read. And then I made up a thing here, which was like tracking where I reckon it's going to happen. So within the next 24 to 30 hours, roughly, if it's going to happen, I reckon, looking at the tectonic plates and how it all works, the white circles up the top are Alaska. It's been heavily rocked this week or last week more. And now all the seismic activity this week's moved down to Russia, which is the one in the middle here. So the red seismic area, and that was going to be bigger than you can see than the other two. So the guess from about a week ago is kind of about right. And it's not a guess, it's like looking at tectonic plates and shit. This is where they are. So, but the vibe was that it all started in Alaska. The pressure under us is started in Alaska, it's moved down to Russia. So the next thing, in theory, it would do, all that pressure will move down near Japan. So if that happens, I will fall off my seat, because if one of these predictions from either of the girls, the Thai or the Japanese lady, even if either one of them came true, it'd be pretty phenomenal stuff. So, there'd be a bit more to it, and to how they predict. They both hit stuff too. Both their predictions, they've had a fair few come true, and they've had a fair few not. So predictions are like that. If I said I predict 1,000 things that are going to happen in the next 2 years, well, it's going to be like that. Some stuff's going to happen, and a few I'll probably guess right. So that's how it is. All right, so I'll just get rid of that. So at the moment, it's sort of settled down a little bit. We've still got, some action going on around the way. So I'll just get back to the area in question. So that's the Russian earthquake. And you can see up here, that's Alaska, which last week was all the action. Now it's moved down to Russia, and we've just had a 4.7 go off on the top of Japan. So the red means it's happened within the last 2 hours kind of thing. Get back here, it's trying to take me away. And we've got a few down here. So we've got a few in Taiwan going off, one just recently. Indonesia's kind of quietened down a little bit, 4.4s. Weird that Australia's getting them. New South Wales, right on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, got a 4.7. And Northern Territory's getting little ones as well. So we don't get earthquakes as such. We usually get tremors. So I'd consider a 4.7 for Australia to be big. And very inland. We're like a sandy place. We're like a big sand pit at the end of the day. So when shit shakes, it's not really that violent. And looking at New Zealand for the last few hours, they got a few, but New Zealand always gets them. Like, New Zealand's just renowned for it. So looking around the Pacific, around Asia, yeah, Indonesia's gone eerily quiet. Like, that's very quiet. Couple of falls. They were really busy last week, and then it died off. So it's moved up to Taiwan, and the pressure seems to be out of these big ones that just keep hammering Russia. So you can see here, this is the 8.8, but on the software I'm using, it called it a 7.8. So I don't know who's right and who's wrong. Again, you kind of get different measurements depending on which stations were measuring. Maybe someone had, measuring gear closer and it said it was 8.8. Like, I'd personally find it a little bit hard to believe 8.8. That'd be pretty destructive, and I would expect a massive tsunami from something like that. Again, it kind of depends what happened, but as you can see, there's the Russian one that really hit home. This one out here is in the ocean, so a couple of 100 k's off the coast. And you can sort of see they're moving down, like apart from that one up there, stop trying to go away. So you can kind of see they're heading down, the pressure's heading down towards Japan. So the possibility of one of these prophets being right, I don't know, I'm going to give it a 50-50. I'm not really a betting man, but I reckon just looking what's happened in the last week, because I'm not a fanatical earthquake chaser or anything like that. It was only because of a few prophecy videos I made that I even, had half an interest in what was going on. And, it was funny because I also seem to find like Australian morning time is when all the earthquake happens, and they seem to get mellow in the afternoon, which is kind of strange. It's, I don't know whether that's always been like that, because I've only been looking at, roughly had software open in the background for, say 2 weeks. and the software just pops up on my computer. I'll be doing something else, it'll just pop up, and if anything goes over like 4.55, it just pops up and gives me a warning and says, here, you know, how's your father, what's going on? Gives me a bit of a look, and then I just move it out of the way. But I've definitely seen that, you know, the movement happening from Alaska, which is up here. So that's all Alaska, and you can see how many they've had just in the last 24 hours. Like that's pretty chunky. They're all only little though. When last week these earthquakes all around Alaska were quite big, like 4s and 5s were the constant. Now they're kind of around the 4. Russia's now getting hit, as you can see, just constant. And Japan, just one. Now, like Indonesia, Tokyo, everywhere, Japan's looking eerily quiet, like almost like the quiet before the storm, like the calm before the storm. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm still interested to see if in the next 24 hour anything happens. Funnily enough, most of the time, nothing happens. You know, the media constantly is telling everyone, like even this tsunami warning this morning, I bet you nothing happens. It seems to be the constant theme that, you know, you can go and doom all you want about a big earthquake's going to come, or a tidal wave, or whatever, or the aliens are going to come. You know, you can talk about anything, but most things never happen. And I sometimes wonder whether nothing ever happens because too many people are focused on it. And if we're all focusing on it, it seems to die in its arse. So, you know, all the you know, if it's a planned event, they just can't pull it off properly. But yeah, I definitely think there's something to it. And again, anyone who's just lobbed on, I was basically discussing a few prophecy videos that I made about a month ago from a Thai woman and a Japanese woman. And they both said that before the end of July, before the beginning of August, there's going to be underground volcanoes that are going to erupt near Japan, which is where we're looking at the moment. This is where the Russian earthquake just happened this morning, and plenty more of them still happening now. They're all within an hour. And yeah, anyway, these prophets were like, you know, before August starts, there's going to be underwater volcanoes and it's going to get spicy. So that's what I've been following. Only reason I've been following earthquakes at all in the last few weeks. And looking at the pressure build-up, you know, that there just might be something to it. Because again, I've got this little graph over here. Like this is a week old as a guess as to where it would be. Alaska up the top, Russia in the middle, which is now getting hit really, really hard. And there's Japan down the bottom. So the big event, yellow writing, that's Japan. And if it happens, because of just basic measurements, the halfway point to the halfway point, it's on, you know, one of the seismic plates. So I don't think if these predictions are right and Japan gets hammered by a really big earthquake, I don't think it's going to be on Japan. I think it'll be out to sea again. And the predictions that both these girls made was that a tsunami destroys shit, not the earthquake itself. That'll be underwater. I've got to turn on a light. We just got massive cloud coming over, and now I've got all this weird shit on my screen. So just bear with me a sec. Oh, is that better? Yeah, got rid of all the artifacts. That's good. That looks better. All right. So, yeah, so that was my gist of going off these two prophets, coming up with, you know, a diagram which I think would make sense of roughly where it'd be. And, yeah, because they were both on a tsunamis. They're like underground volcanoes go mental. 3 of them apparently like a chain set off, which is pretty rare. But what is rare now? Like Russia just getting an 8.8, that's super rare. As I was showing, like this thing, this page here, get rid of that. A 8.8 is unbelievable. Like it's a once in a year kind of job. So the second one from the bottom is 8 to 8.9, and like it says that that will destroy buildings that were even made to withstand earthquakes. That's how big it is, and once a year. So we just had that one today. So anything's possible, I suppose. Maybe one of these girls was actually on the ball and might even hit it. Might even get the prophecy that they were claiming. So we'll see, though. It's a bit like that. Now, I'll just get rid of that one. Get back to see if anything's going on. You know, I find it strange too that the different earthquake monitoring stations put out different stats, because last week I was doing a live because a decent earthquake went off. I think it was 7.8, and that went off in Alaska. And when I jumped on, and I literally about to press record, and it went off. So I got a bit of footage of it. You know, just all the bands heading off and showing the impact of it and stuff like that. And then the media said that it was a 6.8. So I'd already written up a thing because I saw it happen. So I wrote up like a a title saying 7.8, and then the media's going like 6.8 or 6.7 or something. So then everyone's up my ass. They're all like, "Oh, you're bullshitting, mate. What are you carrying on?" You know, I'm like, that's what this software said, dude. This, I think sometimes they downgrade earthquakes and sometimes they upgrade them. So I think that's the thing. Like, even watching ones that are going off now, like one near Peru somewhere, 4.5, it can change. So that can go up or down. So obviously when it's first happening, I'd say the gear just doesn't know exactly what's going on, and they've got to work out, I suppose, the medium of all this kind of activity. Because, yeah, I've definitely seen them drop a whole point sometimes. They'll start, this one could have started off at 5.5 and it goes to 4.5. So that happens too, but you feel like you're full of shit when you've already written up a title, and then the earthquake, it was 7.8, and then the media's like, no, 6.4. And then, I've got all these people harassing me like, "Oh, mate, you're wrong, you're lying, you're drama," all this shit. I don't care. I don't even care, I'd care if I lived right next door to where it was going off. Yeah, so anyway, I think the whole deal is today I'm just going to, cover a couple little things, but tomorrow's the D-Day, really. I'm probably going to get on tomorrow, because tomorrow's the day that the two prophets that I did videos on have to nail it. They both said before the 31st, well, by the end of July, beginning of August, there's going to be a big tsunami ripping through Japan. It'll destroy Philippines, Japan, Thailand, all those places. So again, I wasn't actually getting on to talk about an earthquake that was 8.8 in Russia. That wasn't my job. That was just happening. I got a postie at the door. Bear with me. I just put on a quick video. I'll put on the other one because she's also interesting. So where is she? She's this one. I'll just chuck this one up.
Turning to a most recent and ominous vision. A warning that has already begun to shape public behaviour, even before its date has arrived. Rio Tatsuki's latest vision stands out for its scale and the ripple effect it's already causing. In her expanded 2021 edition of The Future I Saw, she describes a mega tsunami set to strike on July 5th, 2025, triggered by a massive undersea earthquake south of Japan, possibly between Japan and the Philippines. According to her prophecy, the resulting waves could reach 3 times the height of those seen in 2011. That year, the Tohoku tsunami reached up to 133 feet in some places. If Tatsuki's vision proves true, the devastation could be far greater, threatening coastal cities and communities across a wide region. The predicted impact zone covers some of Asia's most vulnerable coastlines: Japan's eastern shores, the Philippine archipelago, Taiwan, Indonesia, and parts of India. Tatsuki marks the danger area as a diamond-shaped region connecting Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, and the Northern Mariana Islands, an area already known for seismic instability. What makes her prediction even more unsettling is the level of detail. A specific date, a defined geographic zone, and disturbing imagery of boiling oceans, which some interpret as a sign of possible underwater volcanic activity amplifying the disaster's effects. Tatsuki's story invites us to question the boundary between coincidence and something deeper. Her record, filled with both uncanny hits and unexplained misses, suggests the future might be more flexible than we think. Whether her two
Sorry, I had to get the door and stuff. Postman delivering crap, and if I don't run out there, he takes it away and I have to go and pick it up, so that's annoying. Yeah, so in the background, that's one of the videos that I did. I might just make it a bit smaller than that. So I'll just turn that one off. I don't need her at the moment. That was just a bit of filler while I had to answer the door. Yeah, so we're still just getting little ones everywhere. And, you know, it's always the way. There's a lot of monitoring stations. You see all the little green dots that are flashing. So they're monitoring stations. And a lot of the time you'll see all the green dots going off and then something will happen. So they're kind of picking up probably little tremors before they officially say, yeah, there's an earthquake here. So you can kind of tell where you are by who's got the most monitoring stations and that kind of thing. So obviously not all of them are seismic. They're monitoring all different stuff as well. And I think sometimes I've even seen things like picked up as an earthquake, which are like, you know, a mine blew up the side of a mountain or something. You'll see little question marks appear. And it's almost like they don't know because it was a surface kind of explosion whether, you know, that was legit or not. But they still show up. So I think it filters out, you know, a fair bit of stuff. So, but yeah, look, I'm personally very interested after doing these videos to see whether either of the girls get it right, that we've got less than 24 hours until a shit show of tsunamis through Southeast Asia, from basically pushing from Japan, Philippines, Thailand and all those areas. So it'll be interesting. So again, I wasn't really going to get on today and do much. Like, I have this sort of live set up in the background just in case something popped off, and it did today. So we got the Russian 8.8 earthquake going off. I'm still waiting to see if any tsunami action is happening on that one. It's sort of, yeah, they're still just sort of saying possibility. To me, the possibility must be over by now. Surely it either happened or it didn't, because it's, you know, it was a while back. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they move between, you know, 200 to 600 k's an hour or something. So in my head, there's no tsunami, or it's going to be small, you know, a bit of a wave. And I think the one, the last week when I was doing a live and one went off when I was doing the live in Alaska. They were going off all day in Alaska, and it was hilarious to watch because the people in Alaska must be so used to it, because I jumped on some of the live cams and having a look around, see if you could see anything. And there were these guys right near the epicenter, and they were fishermen on the shore just filleting fish. They're just standing there cutting fish heads off, chucking guts into the ocean, didn't care. They weren't fazed by it. And there's this tsunami warning for the whole area. And they just stood there doing their fish, you know, chuckling away to themselves. So, you know, they knew better. So they live in an area where earthquakes are a constant. Well, the local fishermen weren't scared. They didn't give a shit. And it was issued that they could be metre waves coming through where they were standing. Where they were standing was flat. And again, nothing happened. So often, nothing happens. Yeah, but looking around, I'm not seeing that anything's really coming of that as a tsunami out of Russia. So I think that's just fizzled, which is a good thing. I'm not here to actually, you know, hope for doom. That's not what I'm after. Yeah, they're even issuing Japan as a tsunami warning. But again, the two prophecies that I was talking about that have to come off in the next 24 hours, or they're BS, they both said it's going to happen around Japan or lower. So this 8.8 in Russia, if that had happened off the coast of Japan, I'd be more panicked. But we'll see. I'm just sort of just having a quick look. I'm trying not to bore you all, but I'm just having a quick look. I'm trying to get... all right, so there's some sort of footage coming out. I'm not going to throw news sites footage up, even though it's educational purposes. If I throw up something on the screen, it's purely for educational purposes, and I'll credit anything I use and that kind of stuff. But yeah, looking at it, look, there's some footage of, you know, water drawing out a little bit or whatever, but otherwise it looks like a fizzle. The waves I'm seeing coming through, like when I was fit and young, I would have surfed those. That's not that big, metre or two. Nothing to be worrying about. All right, so I'm not gonna. Oh God, some of the ads you see on these sites are gross. All right, yeah. So again, I'm interested really in the next 24 hours because of the prediction videos that I'd made about these two girls, who both said the big tsunami is going to happen near Japan. It's going to destroy Philippines, Thailand, all those places. It could, you know, even go further. So, and they're saying that underwater volcanoes, and the real problem with underwater volcanoes is that you don't know they're about to pop. Like you can see all the monitoring stations on screen, all those little blue and green dots. Like I'll zoom you in on one. So that's Japan. If it goes back to Japan, it means we're having a boring day. It means that not much is happening right at the moment. So you can see that's Russia. There's only one monitoring station there, which might be the reason why this software, I'll get to it so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. This software was telling me that that Russian one was only 7.8. Like 7.8 is still big. See that? I'll just see if I can go up a bit. So that's 7.8, not 8.8. And there's only one monitoring station, right? This little green thing over the left. So I don't know whether it's been dramatised and whether they're, you know, upgrading it or not. But this software is claiming it was 7.8. So I don't know whether it was 8.8 or 7.8. And, you know, it's just that kind of thing. When you can see on screen now that like a little one went off, you can see all these monitoring stations. Like that's in America. So America's just laden with monitoring stations when a lot of the world isn't. Like you can see in this shot here, you'll see all the green dots flashing. A lot of the time, this software is preempting stuff. So these monitoring stations that you're seeing, all the green dots here that are flashing, they're picking up little tremors at the moment, but they're not big enough to broadcast that it's actually, you know, anything substantial. So they'll flash, and often they'll flash, and then you'll get a big earthquake, you know, rip off after them. But then I've seen a lot of them flash and that doesn't happen. So you can kind of see them again. So this software is just out scanning now, just looking for tiny little seismic activity, trying to guess where the next thing's going to happen. Like America always gets tremors, so they're nothing special, and most of theirs are about under 4. So, you know, it's that kind of thing. Yeah, it's picking up this area here. It's really liking that, which is interesting that it's you know, they're going off. But again, the thing that interests me is this little diagram that's more than a week old is what I reckon's happening. That's Alaska up the top there. That's where all the action was last week. It's died down. Now Russia's getting the action, and they're getting lots of it with an 8.8. And then within maybe the next 24 hours, we're going to see something go on in Japan. So again, this little drawing is kind of more my prediction, but I'm more been following these two other girls that were talking about it and that kind of thing. So just for sake of it, I'm going to throw on the Tatsumi. She's a Japanese woman who did cartoons. She sketched magma cartoons, and she had a diary basically, which was just a personal diary, and a lot of the visions or dreams she had came true. So I'm going to whack her on for a minute, and I just want to give people a bit of an idea of why I'm talking about what I'm talking about, and I wasn't just here to troll the Russian 8.8 earthquake that just happened about an hour ago or whatever. So yeah, I'll throw on hers just because it kind of makes sense to what I'm talking about. And all right, we'll see.
In 1995, a Japanese illustrator wrote about a deadly virus that would emerge in 2020. She called it decades before COVID-19. Ryo Tatsuki's diaries are filled with predictions that came true with chilling accuracy. Earthquakes, celebrity deaths, even Princess Diana's tragedy. But her latest warning is the most terrifying yet. A mega tsunami in July 2025. Are these dreams or prophecies? The unsettling accuracy of Tatsuki's visions? What sets Tatsuki's visions apart is their unsettling accuracy. down to specific people, places, and moments in time. In 1976, she recorded a dream about a Queen concert with Freddie Mercury absent from the stage. She didn't understand its meaning, but the image lingered. Years later, on November 24, 1991, Mercury died from complications related to AIDS, and the world saw Queen perform without their iconic frontman for the first time. The details in her sketch, an empty spotlight, the crowd's confusion, matched reality in a way too precise to ignore. Another case stands out for its chilling specificity. Tatsuki once dreamed of a woman trapped in a concrete shelter, desperately calling for help. She drew the scene in her diary, capturing the cramped space and the woman's expression. Not long after, a murder was reported in an underground bomb shelter, and the victim's appearance and the crime scene mirrored her vision almost exactly. These weren't vague predictions. They were snapshots of moments yet to come. Perhaps the most haunting of all was her foresight of the Great Hanshin earthquake in 1995. Her notes described violent tremors striking a city, with buildings collapsed and streets buried in debris. When the earthquake devastated Kobe that January, the destruction unfolded just as she had written, down to the neighborhoods most affected. More than 6,000 lives were lost, and the tragedy left a permanent mark on Japan's memory, echoing the devastation Tatsuki had already recorded. Unlike generic fortune-telling, which often relies on broad statements, Tatsuki's visions contained granular details, exact dates, locations, and the emotional atmosphere of each event. Her writings even included a premonition of Princess Diana's tragic death, described before the Paris tunnel crash as the loss of a beloved figure surrounded by flashing cameras. Of course, not every vision played out as she dreamed. Some sketches remain unexplained, and a few, like her note about Mount Fuji erupting in 2012, never came to pass. These misses complicate her story, suggesting that her dreams might be warnings or possibilities rather than absolute certainties. If these dreams were warnings, could they have changed history? For all the questions her visions raise, one thing is clear. Tatsuki's notebooks became a haunting record of tragedies that would later unfold. Among these, one prediction would stand out for its precision and impact, a date that would change Japan forever. In her 1999 manga, The Future I Saw, Ryo Tatsuki quietly included a date that seemed insignificant at the time, March 11, 2011. Years later, that date would become seared into Japan's collective memory as the day the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami struck. The 9.0 magnitude quake unleashed waves that overwhelmed entire towns, claimed nearly 20,000 lives, and led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. What was once a small detail in a self-published comic became a chilling echo of reality. Tatsuki's prediction was remarkable not only for its content, but for its precision. She didn't offer a general warning about earthquakes. She named the exact date years in advance. Her manga depicted massive waves crashing over coastal cities, with water engulfing buildings and streets. When the tsunami arrived in 2011, the scenes on the news closely matched her illustrations. Rescue crews described cement structures cracked open like eggshells, a phrase that echoed both their real-life accounts and the images Tatsuki had drawn more than a decade before. After the disaster, people began to revisit her manga, searching for other overlooked warnings. The accuracy of the March 11th prediction sent a wave of unease through Japan's manga community and beyond. Tatsuki herself was unsettled by the attention. In interviews, she explained that she never saw herself as a prophet. She believed the date was just a random detail from her subconscious, not a message about the future. She said she didn't recognize the significance of her drawings until after the events had already unfolded. This moment marked a turning point in how people viewed Tatsuki's work. Scholars and researchers began to analyze her notebooks, looking for patterns and clues. Even government officials took note, consulting her diaries when considering updates to tsunami preparedness plans. Despite this, Tatsuki maintained that she had no control over the process. Her role was passive, like a radio picking up signals she couldn't fully interpret. The 2011 earthquake and tsunami remain the most verified and haunting of her predictions. Yet, the inconsistencies in her visions, like the unfulfilled eruption of Mount Fuji, leave room for doubt. Some wonder if her dreams are warnings, possibilities, or glimpses of a future that isn't set in stone. As people began to look more closely at her past writings, another entry began to draw attention: a vision of a different kind of disaster, one that would touch the entire world. The story of Tatsuki's COVID-19 prediction begins in 1995, when she wrote in her diary about a mysterious virus that would emerge exactly 25 years later in 2020. At the time, her notes were dismissed as just another odd dream tucked away in a self-published notebook. But as the world shut down in the early months of 2020, people returned to her writings and found details that felt uncomfortably familiar: a sickness spreading quietly, cities growing silent, and people covering their faces with masks. What set this vision apart wasn't just the timing, but the uncanny specifics. Tatsuki's entries described images of empty streets, crowds in masks, and political leaders struggling to respond. She even noted that the virus would peak in April before fading, only to return a decade later. A detail that caught the attention of those searching for answers in the chaos. Her sketches and descriptions mirrored the confusion, the overwhelmed hospitals, and the sense of fear that swept across the globe. Unlike vague predictions, Tatsuki's account included concrete elements: the year, the global scale, and the emotional atmosphere. She wrote of a disease that would start overseas, cause panic, and disrupt daily life. These weren't broad guesses. They were observations that echoed the reality of the pandemic as it unfolded. Still, her diaries weren't warnings meant for the world. Tatsuki never claimed to understand the meaning behind her dreams, and she offered no advice on how to prepare. Could these warnings have softened the pandemic's blow? We'll never know. The entries sat unnoticed for decades, only gaining attention once the events they described had already begun. The accuracy of her COVID-19 vision added a new layer to her reputation. After earthquakes, celebrity deaths, and now a global pandemic, it became harder to dismiss her as simply lucky. Tatsuki herself remained reserved, insisting she was just a woman recording her dreams, not a prophet or a guide. Yet, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Public reaction to her predictions has grown more intense. When her latest vision resurfaced, a Hong Kong-based travel agency, WWPKG, reported a 50% drop in bookings to Japan during the Easter break, driven by public concern over her prophecy. As more people revisit her work, the question becomes not just whether her visions are real, but what we're supposed to do with them. They arrive as fragments, unanswered warnings, unaccompanied by instructions. With her track record of unsettling accuracy, each new prediction carries more weight. And now, attention is turning to her most recent and ominous vision, a warning that has already begun to shape public behavior, even before its date has arrived. Ryo Tatsuki's latest vision stands out for its scale and the ripple effect it's already causing. In her expanded 2021 edition of The Future I Saw, she describes a mega tsunami set to strike on July 5th, 2025, triggered by a massive undersea earthquake south of Japan, possibly between Japan and the Philippines. According to her prophecy, the resulting waves could reach 3 times the height of those seen in 2011. That year, the Tohoku tsunami reached up to 133 feet in some places. If Tatsuki's vision proves true, the devastation could be far greater, threatening coastal cities and communities across a wide region. The predicted impact zone covers some of Asia's most vulnerable coastlines: Japan's eastern shores, the Philippine archipelago, Taiwan, Indonesia, and parts of India. Tatsuki marks the danger area as a diamond-shaped region connecting Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, and the Northern Mariana Islands, an area already known for seismic instability. What makes her prediction even more unsettling is the level of detail. A specific date, a defined geographic zone, and disturbing imagery of boiling oceans, which some interpret as a sign of possible underwater volcanic activity amplifying the disaster's effects. Tatsuki's story invites us to question the boundary between coincidence and something deeper. Her record, filled with both uncanny hits and unexplained misses, suggests the future might be more flexible than we think. Whether her 2025 tsunami vision proves true or not, the pattern of her predictions matching real events is difficult to dismiss. Are these glimpses of fate or just rare alignments? The uncertainty is part of the mystery. Keep your third eye open. Even the unlikeliest visions can carry a warning. Have you ever experienced a dream or sign that felt prophetic? Share your story in the comments below. In 1995, a Japanese illustrator wrote about a deadly virus that would emerge in 2020. She called it decades before COVID-19. Ryo Tatsuki's diaries are filled with predictions that came true with chilling accuracy. Earthquakes, celebrity deaths, even Princess Diana's tragedy. But her latest warning is the most terrifying yet. A mega tsunami in July 2025. Are these dreams or prophecies? The unsettling accuracy of Tatsuki's visions? What sets Tatsuki's visions apart is their unsettling accuracy, down to specific people, places, and moments in time. In 1976, she recorded a dream about a Queen concert with Freddie Mercury absent from the stage. She didn't understand its meaning, but the image lingered. Years later, on November 24, 1991, Mercury died from complications related to AIDS, and the world saw Queen perform without their iconic frontman for the first time. The details in her sketch, an empty spotlight, the crowd's confusion.
Yeah, so that was the deal of one of the prophets that I made a video on, and the reason why I've been looking into earthquake monitoring gear for the last 2 weeks just to see what was going on. And again, I think the Thai Mor Plai was probably a bit more on the money because the Japanese woman, she basically wrote comics, and so it's kind of like The Simpsons, you know, like the show The Simpsons can get a lot of things right. People are like, oh my God, they predicted all these things. But they've made how many shows? Like 5,000 shows. Out of 5,000 shows, if I went through anything that's got 5,000 shows, it would look like they were predicting the future no matter what they were talking about, because you're going to hit things when you're roughly talking about current events, like pop culture, you know, like The Simpsons does. So you are going to hit stuff. It's going to happen because they've got educational guesses going on there. So that makes it a little bit easier to, you know, pull off some what looks like prophecy. But, you know, again, only a day to go until they'll both be wrong. And I hope they're both wrong because I don't want to see horrible shit go all over the place. That's, you know, not a good thing. But we'll see. So I might wrap this one up, and I will get back on probably tomorrow because that's D-Day. So if you're watching this and you want to follow along, throw in a sub and ring the bell and do all those things, and then you'll know when I'm on live. I do a lot of different lives too. I don't just chase doom and earthquakes. You do all sorts of stuff, even, you know, from every end of the spectrum is kind of what I like to talk about. So always got something to say to bore people with to death. So that's what I'll do. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I've got to go and do some normal stuff. And I hope everyone has a good day, and I hope no doom happens. So take care of yourselves.